Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have some interesting things to show you today from some of the people that have filed for XRP ETFs. So let's get going. XRP, we had a little bit of a pullback, but it's working its way back up. We were at 320 a minute ago, so we'll see what happens there. So I found this interview. This is with the head of U.S. business at 21 Shares, which is one of the companies that has filed for an XRP ETF, and look what he said.
We certainly are seeing demand for non-Bitcoin, non-Ethereum products in Europe. You know, our XRP and our Solana ETFs crossed $1 billion in assets this year out of Europe. And as you mentioned, smaller markets, you can only imagine what that would look like in the US once those products are approved of strategies lately, including Ondo, Sui, Doge, as you mentioned, XRP, Solana, as well as 2 index products as of last Friday. Looking to track the top 10 crypto assets globally. And so for us, really, it all comes down to giving investors this optionality and this level of choice where they can express their views on certain assets and use the ETF as a vehicle to do so in a really, like I mentioned earlier, low cost, safe, and transparent way.
All right. So they're able to have their ETFs in Europe right now, and they know what's coming now that now that we have the level playing field. These guys know what's coming for the U.S. And then Paul Barron had Steve McCrary, I think that's how you say his name, and he's with Canary Capital, who has also filed for ETFs. And there's only one thing I think he's wrong about in here. I think XRP is not staking, but XRP is going to have yield soon. And I don't think that part of Steve's analysis is correct. In the short term it is, but he basically tells you why he thinks XRP ETFs will do better than Ethereum ETFs.
Why do you think XRP's ETF might perform differently if you kind of compare, I guess, Bitcoin and ETH right now, who are going head to head?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's really 3 different reasons why I believe that XRP is going to do well versus ETH, for instance. One of them is staking. So if you're actually a bit more crypto native, you're not going to buy an ETH ETF because you can go to one of the crypto exchanges or go somewhere off chain or actually on chain. You can get a 2 to 3% yield.
Right.
So why would you buy an ETF if you can get a yield on top of your token somewhere else? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And since XRP doesn't offer that, then it doesn't matter whether it's on an exchange, whether it's in an ETF or not. You're not losing out on anything. So that's reason number 1. Number 2, I just mentioned, it's really the category leader. So the category leaders that people can understand are gonna make a lot more sense. Whereas ETH has a lot more competition in its category. XRP has very little. So people are going to see that as the clear leader. It's done a lot to keep the technology upgraded, continue to move forward, to remain the leader. So, I think that's really, that's really that. And then really the third point here is the demand and the community and the number of people that are following this thing. So, look, I think XRP's $5 billion the first month across the board. So we'll see how that goes. But I believe out of the gate, it's definitely gonna outperform what ETH did.
$5 billion the first month. Now, this right here, I want to reiterate this. I've been saying it for a long time. There's a reason that all these Bitcoin maxis right now are coming out of the woodwork, from Caitlin Long to Mark Yusko, and all these people are coming out of the woodwork to attack XRP. Their worst nightmare has come true, and that is the Ripple lawsuit is behind it. These guys loved Ripple being held back through a lawsuit. But I'm going to say it again. You have not seen a free market in crypto for the last decade. Utilities coming, XRP's coming. The level regulatory playing field that they've tried to stop for so long has arrived. Finally, the free market gets to decide which digital asset is number one. Now, what this is the CIO of Hashdex. Hashdex is another one of the companies that has filed for an XRP ETF. What he's talking about here is he's talking about how markets change, and I'll make 2 or 3 predictions here. First prediction: XRP will become number one over Bitcoin. Second prediction: the allocation by all these companies in these ETF funds is Bitcoin is going to start losing the percentage allocation, XRP allocation in these things. You know, it's been like 75+% in Bitcoin, and then like 15% in ETH, and then like 3 to 5% in XRP. You're going to start to see the percentage of XRP go up. Bitcoin and Ethereum, Ethereum may go up a little bit, but Bitcoin definitely is going to start coming down as utility happens here, folks. And you're also going to see the majority of the money that's coming from, you know, all this legislation is going to consolidate in the blue chip crypto, the top, you know, whatever. But you need to understand that this guy, he's right over the target here with how markets change. And if you have, you know, it's the same thing as what happened back in the financial crisis with the bailouts. Once you have the government stepping in and bailing out these 10 banks over here, but they don't bail out these 10 over here, what do you think's going to happen? Well, the government has propped up Bitcoin by giving this fake, oh, well, it's a commodity, everybody says so, while they sue Ripple. When that is gone, and it'll take a little bit of time for, like, once the SEC has to approve these ETFs and all that, but the free market, for the first time in over a decade, is going to get to decide instead of the government deciding, oh, Bitcoin's a commodity. Now there's a level playing field. And this guy's describing how these markets work over time.
So I was looking at the index, and it looks like it's roughly 77% Bitcoin, 10% Ethereum, and sort of 6% XRP, and then, you know, kind of Solana and a couple others. But really curious to hear kind of like, how has the index sort of evolved over time? Like, has it gone, because obviously, like, in 2017, there was far less investable assets than there are sort of today.
Yes.
And I'm just like really kind of curious, like over the 9 years, how, you know, was it kind of like 99% Bitcoin when it started and then it's sort of fallen, or yeah, what are the trends and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, and this is part of any emerging technology. Okay, so you have this transition, you have this shift over time between assets. Some assets go to zero. There's a lot of experimentation happening. It's too soon to call the winners. This is not different from how the internet was back in the 90s. So if you look at the NASDAQ 100, from the top 10 holdings of the NASDAQ 100 in 1999, only Microsoft has retained its position on the top 10.
And by the way, he's incorrect on that. Only Microsoft and Amazon. Amazon was on it too. I guess it depends on what time in 1999 you look, but I'll show you in a minute.
So this is normal for any, for the tech space. It's normal to, if you look at like in 5 years, 10 years horizon, there's a shift around this. And this is very normal. In crypto, this is way faster because this ecosystem is evolving in an exponential rate, way faster than the internet evolved in the 90s. But so it's very natural. So that's why we have designed a methodology that is evolutive and dynamic. Okay, so the idea is to replicate and reflect the market, however the market is. So the index started with 5 assets and 90% concentration on Bitcoin. And it evolved over time, like some bull markets, it went up to 13, 14 assets, and like a 60% weight on Bitcoin. Now it has 9 assets and 70% weight on Bitcoin. So it's designed to reflect whatever the market is. If the market expands,
as we believe it will, as a new asset class, this index can have like 20, 50, 100 assets. There's no limit to the number of assets this index can have. On the other side, if the market contracts and the only asset out there is Bitcoin, the index is going to be highly tilted towards Bitcoin. So it's really designed as a benchmark to represent the space, like for passive investment and also for benchmarking.
Now look at here it is. This is right now the NASDAQ 100. There's Microsoft. You see Apple, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, Alphabet, which is Google, Tesla, Netflix. And then let's go, I think it's down here. Or was it up here? Yeah. Here's the top 10 from 1999. There's Microsoft. You had Intel, Cisco, Qualcomm, Oracle, Dell, Sun Microsystems, Yahoo, Amazon, Applied Materials. So only Amazon and Microsoft survived to today to stay in that top 10. I'll make you another prediction. I'll bet you that, won't bet you, but my prediction is that Ripple not only will be in this when they go public at some point, but they'll be number one, and XRP will be number one in crypto. There you go. How's that for a prediction? I know we're not allowed to make predictions. Here's another wild thing to get out of this. Of the top 10 in the top 100 on the NASDAQ, okay, every single one of them except for Ripple, from David Schwartz's tweet back in December of 22, all elements are now taken. Google has earth, Apple has air, Amazon has fire, Ripple has water. That's kind of surreal when you look at it that way, because three of those, Ripple hasn't gone public yet, but the other three are in that top 10. And I'll say it again, before this story's over, Ripple will be number one on that NASDAQ 100. Write it down. Look at this from Nate Garachi. He's one of the ETF people. Futures-based SOL and XRP ETFs launched in March, April. Since then, categories taken over $1 billion. That included Rex Osprey SOL Plus Staking ETF, which is nearly 150 million on assets under management. In my opinion, proves there will be real demand for 33 Act XRP and SOL ETFs. There's some controversy here. This Marty Party guy basically says that this is the Block article saying that BlackRock had said they have no plans for an XRP ETF is not true. And then this guy Nate Garachi says, I have no idea who this dude is, but clearly has a large following, calling out journalistic standards of prominent crypto media outlet. So here, this was the Block article. It says that at this time, BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or SOL ETF, a BlackRock spokesman told the Block on Friday. Folks, come on. Subjective views is directly over the target here. BlackRock isn't stupid. Confirming plans to launch an XRP ETF would send the asset price soaring. Chess, not checkers, people. I mean, Wall Street talks their book, and they do it in the right way. And that's just the way the world works, whether it's right or wrong. These guys are not going to talk about how they're going to have an XRP ETF until they've already got a bunch of their big money investors already parked in it. And it's quite possible a lot of them couldn't park their money in it until that SEC case was dropped. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead. That's all I've got to say. But there will, and I repeat, there will be a BlackRock XRP ETF. And I'm the same guy who, when this market back in 2018 or 19 got down to only $100 billion, I laugh when I see people, well, the market's down and all that. No. You haven't lived through fear until you've lived through that 2018-19 crypto winter, where people were actually in fear of whether crypto would survive. And at that time, I told you, not only would Wall Street come, not Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, not one or two of them, but all of them were coming, and that this would be the asset class to swallow all other asset classes. I said it back then. You can go and check. Oh, it's fun watching some of these Bitcoin maxis start to get it. I'll just let you watch this. They're figuring out that cross-border payments is going to be a big deal. Who's been working on cross-border payments for the last decade, longer than anybody? Who's been talking about it? The XRP army?
Well, cross-border
These guys are finally figuring out that 2 + 2 actually does equal 4.
payments almost instantly, without delays, without the fees of traditional banking. They can process billions of dollars in volume at a fraction of the current cost. Also, Trump has just signed the Genius Act, and that has moved, essentially it's taken their ability to utilize their technology, that's taken it from questioning stage to it's doable now, so yeah. There's a lot to that. I'm not going to get into it, but they've also recently applied for a bank license, which would allow them to settle payments with the Federal Reserve directly. So that would even intensify this ability to be this answer to the problem, right? So cross-border payments were at 190 trillion in 2023. So that's how much money was being sent between borders in 2023. Some have estimated that number is going to jump to 290 trillion, 100 trillion more by 2030. So there's going to be a huge, additional market for cross-border payments. And so somebody that could do it faster with less fees, it has a lot of market to cover, a lot of ground to cover. So here, this in summary, if we're in the early stages of crypto, there's going to be major foundational players. I believe Bitcoin is one of them. I think it's proven to be, and that they're going to outlast the rest. Think about back to the early stages of the internet in 1990, and think about Google, think about Yahoo, and obviously Yahoo is kind of fun. They've been slowly chipping away at their foundation over the years and been making stupid decisions, and they're falling. But Google, there have been major.
Somebody recently.
There have been major players. Well, I don't know. We're not going to get into that. That's just the research that I've done. It's kind of old now, but when it comes to Yahoo, is that they're not making good decisions. But there have been major players in the internet. There's going to be major players, essentially pillars in the crypto world. I believe XRP is one of them. XRP is currently the third largest cryptocurrency. And so it's like you've got Bitcoin, and I think Ethereum is number 2, and then XRP is number 3. And so.
Aha! Good for these guys. They finally got it. Or starting to get it. Okay. Got a lot more to cover, including a little bit more talk about that escrow. I'll show you something pretty interesting. We're going to go into daixrp.com, which is the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click join below any of these YouTube videos. If you'd rather join through X, hit the subscribe button. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.